All right, now we're recording. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Successful Nurturing with Pardot. This is going to be an awesome webinar, very interactive. It's all about the strategy, tactics, and a little bit of voodoo magic to make your nurturing campaigns in Pardot or whatever tool you're working with to make that sing. And so we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. If you're listening to the recording, you'll note that I actually reference the webinar chat because this is a live studio audience and we're gonna have a lot of fun. And you may hear me just jump to some of their questions throughout. So if you're ever interested in joining, you can get your questions answered live. All right, let's get started. Has anyone seen this video on YouTube? This is a crazy one. This poor gal. She is asked to get married. She is proposed to in front of at a basketball court in front of tens of thousands of people. And doesn't this happen to us every day? 96% of visitors to your site aren't ready to buy yet. This gal was not ready to buy yet either. And apparently her not fiance didn't realize this. So she ran off the court and then the mascot had to help him off the court as he was dazed and confused. Let's not be dazed and confused. Not everyone that comes to our site is ready to convert, ready to buy. We need to warm them up. We need to nurture them a little bit and need to offer them some content, get them in the system, and start sending them some nurture emails and getting them ready to go, getting them ready to talk to sales. That's what it's all about here today. Imagine this, 44% of salespeople give up after one follow-up. Yeah. All those leads that we're working so hard to get and create and pass off to sales, and even the good ones, a lot of folks are going to not even follow up after one follow-up. On average, 25% of leads are legitimate, should advance to sales. Okay, well, that's probably leading to why some of these don't get followed up on. But there's a lot of this messiness going on. And finally, 63% of people requesting info will not purchase for at least 3 months. And 20% or more may take more than 12 months to buy. And that's just average. I mean, you may have a long or short sales cycle. And by the way, go ahead and throw in how long your sales cycle is. How long does it take for your average prospect to buy? Is it in months? Is it in years? Throw that in webinar chat. But all these things are happening, right? So we've got people coming to the site and not ready to buy, or leads coming in, they're not getting followed up on, and we know that they're probably not ready to purchase for at least 3 months, or 63% of them. And then many more of them may actually take a lot longer to buy. This is why we're here. It's for nurturing. This is the thing that we solve. And we're going to have some Top Gun references later and get into more of that. But it's all about the nurturing, right? All you need is nurturing. That's it. That's all you need. Well, a couple other things too, but nurturing will do a lot for you. Companies who nurture create what? 50% more leads at 30% lower costs. I don't know about you, but sign me up for 50% more leads and 30% lower costs. You've already got Pardot. You're already spending the money on that. Go ahead and get some nurturing happening, and now you got the leads coming in the lower costs. So this is what we're talking about. And I see, by the way, I see 1 to 6 months. I see 100 days. That's a pretty cool sales cycle. Different for different decisions. Yeah, that definitely can change. 3 months as well. I see one that's 9 months. I see one that's 1.5 years. I probably should have a contest that's who has the longest sales cycle. Thanks for sharing those kind of things with me. This also helps me customize and understand how we can maybe share some stories that might be most relevant to you. So it's always good when there's that interaction. So thank you for doing that. Well, hello. Nice to meet you. My name is Casey Cheshire. If I haven't already met you, I am the founder and CMO of Cheshire Impact, longtime marketer, huge fan of Pardot, huge fan of marketing automation. Happy to be here. And a couple quick numbers to introduce me to you by. 10 number of years I've been working with Pardot, marketing automation. Absolutely love it. 2,300 is now almost like 2,500 is the number of Pardot implementations that Cheshire Impact has done. So a lot of implementations. And I bring that up to share with you because a lot of the lessons learned from how to do nurturing the right way and the wrong way comes from not only my own experience, but from watching and listening and hearing feedback from clients and what they're trying. You wouldn't believe how many nurture campaigns I'm on. I'm on a lot of them, and I've seen some really good ones. I've seen some really bad ones, and I'm happy to be on yours too if you're interested. Just go ahead and throw me on there, and I'll let you know if it's good or not, and I'll give you some feedback and give you some ideas. So happy to help in that regard. 32 is the number of skydives that I've done. It's getting kind of cold out here, so no more skydives for the season. Right now, I've got my attention on Mount Kilimanjaro for for next year, or for this year, actually, in July. All right. Now, I see a couple more people sharing their sales cycles. Excellent. Okay. Ooh, year or two. Yikes. Different products, different decisions. Yeah, that can be crazy. So we're going to solve all that. No matter how long your sales cycle is, we're going to be able to address that with nurturing. In fact, the longer your sales cycle is, the more impact the nurturing can have. And I see it shrink the sales cycle. You wouldn't believe it. It'll actually shrink the sales cycle because a lot of it's follow-up that is or isn't happening. A lot of it is coordinating schedules. So there's a lot of things we can do with nurturing to actually shrink the sales cycle for the entire company. It's pretty magical when it comes down to it. So today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what is nurturing and what is not nurturing. We're going to talk about how to design and build different nurtures. I've got some shapes to share with you. Yeah, actual literal shapes of different kinds of nurture campaigns to bounce off of you. Now, this won't be a tactical training necessarily on how to build every single one of them, or how to actually do that in Pardot. We've got some great trainers at Treasure Impact for that, but I will bring up examples in Pardot, what they look like, and then talk to the toolbar and how, at least Pardot specifically, has the Engagement Studio, which is mind-blowingly amazing when it comes to setting up nurtures. So, and that's called Engagement Studio. You see it right there. Finally, what would a webinar be without little voodoo magic witchcraft? So at the end, yes, at the end, right? We save it at the end to keep you engaged and hooked. We've got a really good comparison on the idea of the personal versus the corporate email. I think a lot of us send those fancy corporate emails out, but you've also seen the personalized looking ones. And we're going to talk about which ones to use in your drip campaigns and why. And that becomes very important because most people do this wrong, but it's a very simple fix. And then the final thing that we're going to talk about before we wrap it up is the 50% engagement email. There is a type of email that will get you 50% or more. Results may vary in terms of engagement if you have that. And you can even put that into your drip campaign and get some massive engagement going. I've used it myself, and there's a guest on the podcast that has used it as well. And then I also see feedback. At some point, I'd love to hear how you measure marketing's contribution to how the sales cycle duration decreases, as opposed to sales becoming better at forecasting or engaging in better behavior. It's a great question. I think it's probably one of those conversations for the Q&A section at the end, because there's a little bit to it. It really requires having a baseline of like, how are things now, right? And then one of the things we're going to talk about involves Top Gun and the danger zone. And so that really will tie into a lot of your question. But as always, in terms of measuring it, that requires a little forethought and then some measuring at the end, but it's definitely possible. And we do have some people that have been doing that. So good question. And finally, we'll talk about the roadmap for Pardot. If you don't already know about it, it's called the CSI. It literally tells you do this first, then this, then this, then this, and you're done. And we turned it into a book, which I have handy, and I'll show you at the end. And then finally, Q&A. All right, what is nurturing? If you're in here, your fingers are near your keyboard, go ahead and throw it in there. What is nurturing? What is this lead nurturing inside of Pardot? This whole nurturing, if you're already doing it, what kind of nurturing are you doing? If you're not, but you wish you were, what would you be doing? Whatever those ideas are, go ahead and throw those into the webinar chat. Don't worry, no judgment zone. We're all just throwing out different ideas here. So share with me what your take on nurturing is. Right. Now, while you're doing that, while you're throwing those different ideas in there, let me tie into the fact that we kind of all have experienced nurturing already. Now, it's the idea of having, oh, there it is, a little bit of a delay on the chat. I was like, where is everyone? But you're all here. It just Zoom wanted to hide the answers from me for a while. So if you've grown up with a mom or a parent that was caring and nurturing and involved, it's a great example. And if you look to other mothers as example, they're great examples of nurturing. And when you actually Google the definition of nurturing, this is really key. This is one of the things I do all the time. I Google a simple word that I thought I would know the definition for, and it tells you the answer. Care for and encourage the growth or development of. Care for and encourage the growth or development of. Very interesting. We can actually tie into that in marketing, and let's do that. But real quick, let's see what some folks have been saying about what nurturing is. Send additional resources. Yeah, that's encouraging the growth of. engaging with clients through the process and action items, updating those items internally so actions can be taken and according and automatically, right? You're keeping on top of things. You're helping them stay on top of things. That's good. Keeping a prospect engaged until they're ready to talk to us. Right. Keeping them engaged, right? You're encouraging them. Okay, don't leave us yet. When you're ready, we'll be here. Taking a customer through their journey with your company, that's great. Getting prospects what they need to stay engaged and eventually take the next step, right? Get them to that next position where they're eventually talking to sales and then purchasing. Guiding a lead's behavior and engagement through valuable content. I like that. Top of mind campaigns, absolutely. Useful content, yes. Keeping people engaged. See, you all are great. What I need to do is just pass you all the microphone. These are fantastic definitions. Staying connected, multiple points. Using content to lead someone from awareness to engaged. I love all this. It's all good. All these different things, if you think about it, they can all be boiled down into caring about our lead, caring about our prospects, our future customers, and encouraging them. Encouraging what? The growth or development, the growth in terms of them getting this problem solved, right? And so it's a great example, and there's a reason we draw into this, because if you tie back all of your nurturing to some solid values like this, like caring and encouraging, right? Like a mother would or a parent would to their kid, then your nurturing will be that much better. If you're designing it to just sort of like move a bit through some sort of milestone and you sort of lost track of the fact that there's a person on the other end, it's not going to be as good. And so what I don't want you to do is build something, and we're going to talk about different shapes in a second, but what I don't want you to do is build something that's going to be kind of self-serving and then not really get the results you're looking for. In that case, you probably were better off just not even building it. So it's important to do it right. There's a marketing litmus test, which is like having the buyer in mind when you're doing this. It's like, would this be helpful for me? So every kind of nurture email you're going to eventually send, you just want to ask yourself, does this have their best interest in mind? And would this help me? Like, what is there value in this, right? Where's the beef? Is this thing helpful or not? And, for Treasure Impact, our core values are we care, we have fun, we get things done. The care side is important, and that ties into this as well, the idea of nurturing. If you care about your prospects, then you're going to want to help them. You like genuinely help them, not just sort of trick them into getting on the phone with sales, but like, hey, we have something that can actually help you. Let's get you all the information you need so you feel more comfortable. And in the words of some folks, so you feel safe. So you'll stay, you'll listen, you'll understand, you'll learn, and eventually make that decision. So we have a working definition. We're talking about nurturing. I like to add the idea of automation to the mix because, as you'll see, newsletters are not nurturing, and we will talk about where they fit into my world. But if we talk about this working definition, we started with the definition of a mother. Let's add in automation to this. Automated care and encouragement of the buyer towards a purchase. That's the working definition right there. Super simple. Screenshot that. Maybe just write down those keywords that jump out at you, because that's in essence what you're doing. And if you can simplify it, then for sure you can build all the amazing things that come out of that. And I like referring to this as care at scale. Again, you want to be giving them content, and a lot of you had already said this, that is actually helpful, that is valuable to them. Because if it is, it's going to help move them in the path. If it doesn't, well, then it's just not nurturing. So let's talk about what not nurturing is. And this is where we might get some debate and some discussion, because right away I say newsletters are not nurturing, at least in terms of our working definition. Now, if you're getting an email to your buyer on a regular basis, does that keep you top of mind? Like some of your definitions was like stay top of mind. Would that do that? It would keep you top of mind. But in the world of automation, newsletters are so MailChimp. Newsletters are so 2000, right? Not even with the 20 on the end, right? You've all heard you got to add 20 and you got to all add the numbers so people can't mess up your documents. Well, this is just 2000, right? Newsletters are so 2000. It's manual work. And the challenge with newsletters is that your best content typically happens right at the very beginning. You're excited. Maybe you just started a new company and you're excited to create all these newsletters with all this really good content, and you're answering questions, hopefully, that your buyers have. Great answers to these questions. And you're on top of it. What ends up happening? Slowly over time, all of your best articles have already been written. So by the time month 13 comes around, you've been at the company for 13 months now, you've kind of answered everything, maybe. maybe you still have more things to talk about, but your best articles happened early on. And an interesting story that ties into this was I wrote for a travel magazine in New Hampshire. So I'm up here in New Hampshire. Hello. The rest of the world, probably a little bit warmer than up here. If you're colder than New Hampshire, definitely let me know. But up here in New Hampshire, and it was a travel magazine called New Hampshire To Do. And I started writing for it. It was a lot of fun. And it started out writing about the ocean, and there's a cool hockey thing that was going on. It was a lot of fun. But after about 2 years of writing some articles for it, it got really hard to write. And Rosemary, where are you from if it's colder? Oh, Seattle's 28 degrees. Okay. All right. Some of you win prizes for being colder. So I was writing for this magazine, but you're running out of ideas, not just myself, but everyone, because New Hampshire is not the largest state. It's not the smallest state either, Rhode Island. But all the best stuff happened early on. The best articles, the best issues of that magazine were early on. So by the time it was getting toward year 2 and 3 and 4, it was like model train museum. Like there was slim pickings. The same kind of thing happens with newsletters. The goal for a drip campaign is to essentially create newsletters that are evergreen. So you send your best content first, followed by your next best content, followed by your third best content. But the magic of putting in a nurture campaign in Pardot is that if I come in today, I get your best, and then your next best, and your next best, your next. I get the whole process. But if someone else comes in 6 months from now, they still get your best and the second best and the third best. So you see how it's not just, like if a lead comes in next year, sorry, too bad. We've already addressed everything. But no, they get the best the content too. So that's why we want to shift from newsletters to doing nurturing automated fashion with Pardot. Consider that. I know newsletters are status quo, but the idea of when you make that shift, you're doing a lot less busy work, and it's then all about, okay, I know people are being nurtured no matter what I do this month. So now I can spend other time and resources thinking about, well, what do I want to say here? And maybe what's another strategy I can go after, another tactic or another lead source, right? So you know that the people that came in are going to get some good stuff for the next 3 months. You can start adding to that so they have some more care and campaigns, but then you can move on. So that's newsletters. Toronto, hello. Oh, Nebraska. Yeah, I'm with you. I guess New Hampshire's nice. You have me all appreciating what I've got now. In Toronto, yeah, I'm sure it's windy and cold up there too. So that's newsletters, monthly campaigns. If I look inside a Pardot account, don't worry, you don't have to show me your Pardot account right now. But whenever I see campaign listings, or if I ever see a list of nurture campaigns, and they say June something, they have a date on them, whatever they might be about. Maybe it's about Dreamforce or some kind of event, but it has some kind of date on it. That's also not what I want to see for nurturing, because that, similar to the newsletters, is telling me you've created not really nurturing. You've created some kind of multi-email campaign that happens to be executed in June. That's not what we're looking for, though. We're looking to create evergreen content. Evergreen means just like the trees, like the ones outside my window, they're still green, even though everything else is not. It's the only green here. Everything else is brown. So the idea with evergreen content and evergreen drip campaigns is that they're going to continue to function and be effective no matter what time of year it is. It's always going to be green. It's always going to be helpful to your candidates and to your prospects that come to your site. So we don't want to make it just a single month. What I'd rather see is something like buyer persona type A drip campaign, or a particular drip campaign for an industry. So if you know someone comes in from the healthcare and life science industry, that you're going to send them this email, then this, then this, and this. One has a case study, one has something else, and it's all geared toward that person who's receiving it. So that's what we're looking for. It's also not sales offers. That's a little bit more no-brainer, but what we're not trying to do is put a bunch of buy now emails into a drip campaign. It's counterproductive. That's not actually nurturing, right? I don't know what the equivalent of it in the parental metaphor sense here, but that's not it, right? It's, oh, buy. Okay, no, that's called an unsubscribe or a spam report right there. As well, think about the fact that autoresponders are not nurturing, because typically, based on even the word autoresponder, it means you had to do something in order to get the response, right? So or the prospect had to do something in order to get the response. Even if they're not responding, or even if they're not taking any action, we're still going to nurture them. Kind of like a parent. Even if you're not listening, I'm still going to nurture you. I'm still your parent, and I'm going to nurture you all the way through. Quick question: is that why we don't see Engagement Studio have a field for campaign association? That's a good question. That's more of like a product question why they didn't do that. You know, in the end, the word campaign gets used a lot, Anthony. It's a good question. In marketing in general, the word campaign is like an effort, right? Kind of like we described this monthly campaign, June 2019 email campaign. It's like an effort, a multi-touch effort that you spend a lot of time planning. But in Pardot, it means your source, your original source. And in Salesforce, a campaign is like a multi-touch, like an action that you want to track. So there's a lot of uses of the word campaign, but when in doubt, for when it comes time to do a nurturing program, campaign, engagement studio, it's all about creating something evergreen. And it's all about the touches. It doesn't have to do anything with sources. And that's the case there. All right. Who has seen Top Gun? Throw a quick quote in there. Throw a quick yes if you have. And did you know raising hands, that's even easier idea. Yeah, you could raise your hand, raise that hand in the sky. If you, oh my gosh, my screen just flooded with hand raises. That's fantastic. So I guess you've all seen Top Gun and you feel the need for speed. So great movie. And apparently they're remaking it. I don't know about that. So you can throw your thoughts on the remake of Top Gun in the chat. But the reason I bring it up is because there's a particular song, Flying into the Blank Zone. Does anyone know what that is? Do you remember what that is? Flying into the blank zone. Danger. I see danger flooding the chat. I love that. Right. Flying into the danger zone. Well, there is a danger zone in the marketing and sales process. And it is as cool as this picture is. In fact, oftentimes when someone is learning about Pardot in the first place, many times the Pardot reps might even bring up this concept of danger zone. The danger zone is all about what happens when a lead gets to sales. We know they're on average not following up very often. The good ones are, of course. They may follow up once, but what happens when a lead, maybe it's the great lead, says, this is all really good, Casey, but could you call me in 6 months? I got to do blah, 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 right? And the sales rep doesn't usually know if that's like a brush off. Is this person being polite? Do you really want me to call you in 6 months? But they kind of do one of those little emoticons that just shrugs their shoulders like, I don't know. And what they do to hopefully what sales is going to do is make a little reminder in the CRM or their calendar to reach back out in 6 months. Now, the challenge is that now you've entered the danger zone because that sales rep has to hit numbers for that month, for that quarter. It's all about the here and now. So what do? They set a reminder. They did their job. They called the lead. They go on to all the other ones. And do they forget about that person? Probably. Unless there's a notable conversation or maybe a future big deal, they probably forgot about that person. But what happens? Their GCal reminds them in 6 months to call this person. So they call back, hey, it's been 6 months. You mentioned you really wanted to do this thing. So how about we chat about it? And they go, oh, Casey, I'm so sorry. Well, you know that thing I wanted to do, hire the webmaster like I talked about? Yeah, we did that. Yeah, but we did it like 3 months ago. And then after that, we went and bought your competitor. I'm really sorry about that, right? There's no obligation for the customers, for the prospects to contractually reach back out to you after telling you that they'll be ready in 6 months. Right. And so oftentimes this happens where it's not necessarily 6 months from now. It could be the 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. You don't know. And now you're in the danger zone because they said, don't call me for a while. And you probably won't call them for a while. And then what could happen in the middle? They could restart their research and if you're not top of mind, what will they do? They'll probably reach out to hopefully you or your competitor or someone else. That's the danger zone. If you're not top of mind in the danger zone, splash one, you're out of it. It's not going to happen. You may get beat by the first sales rep to check in, the first one to be top of mind. So that's the danger zone. Nurturing addresses the danger zone. And and of course, the way it does that is because thinking back to that example with that sales rep, instead of just hitting a reminder for 6 months, they're going to hit a reminder for 6 months and make sure that prospect goes on the 6-month drip campaign or your call me in 6 months, your waiting list drip campaign. So they get a single email every month or whatever period of time you want. It keeps them top of mind with that rep, with the fact that they still care and they're still around. And oftentimes what happens is they respond to that email, and that just totally squashes the danger in that zone. All right, let's talk about design and build. And I see a celebration. Yes, yes. You see some rockets, Jaron. Exactly, right? What's a webinar without some rocket images? Hello. So let's talk about designing your nurture campaign. Most importantly, when you're thinking about designing your nurture campaign, you want to think about the content you're going to use for this. I just talked to a great, brilliant marketer, Mike Lieberman, brilliant guy from Square 2 Marketing. And we talked about how it's so important to map your content to the stage that the buyer is in. You need to do that. You need to offer them things that they're ready for. If they're still in the early stage and not really aware of a problem, you need to help them become aware. If they're more in the comparison stage where they're trying to figure out, do they go with you or someone else? Content to address that will be helpful, right? So it's not just giving them any kind of content, but it's giving them content based on where they're at in the process. Now, to start with, you can kind of just guesstimate. And well, early in this nurture, maybe we give them this kind of content. In the middle on, we give them this kind of content. But when it comes down to actually creating these things, first and foremost, we want to start with the end in mind. And I know that sounds rhetorical. You got to roll with me on this one because we don't do that, do we? Sometimes we don't think about the goal in mind. And that's why I asked early on, how long is your sales cycle? If you know it's a roughly 6-month sales cycle, then you probably should plan on having at least 6 months of a nurture campaign. Some people might be faster. You might come to them a little bit sooner. They might be a little bit longer than 6 months. So you may even contemplate 8 months, but you want to bracket and plan for, okay, we're going to move them from start to finish. So by the time they get off this thing, they've been around 6 months. We've given them all the best content related to them. Now they're ready to hopefully, if not engage with sales, they're now even already engaged and they're going to buy, right? So start with the end in mind. Good content goes without saying. The simple way of doing the content for these drip campaigns is to start, and there's usually this big checklist. I don't think I have a picture of it here, but nope, no picture of it. So I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I literally on one side say, okay, what stage is going on here? Early, mid, late, or you could have more stages. Mike had 8 stages in his model. Love it. And they're all cyclones. You should check out his book, which is called Smash the Funnel. And so it's fantastic interview. It'll be on the podcast a little bit later on. But start with these stages, and then you figure out what questions are my buyers asking in these stages. Think early, mid, late. What questions do people ask early on? What's going on? Why is there a problem? Not even aware there's a problem, right? There's more of this awareness type content. Did you know this could happen? Did you know you could have leads stuck in your Pardot error queue, your sync error queue? You could have hundreds of thousands of leads stuck in there and they could all not be getting sold to by sales. Oh my gosh, awareness, right? Now you're like, oh, okay, maybe I should talk, maybe we should research further. Now you're in the comparison. Who do we hire Treasure Impact to help us with this, or somebody else or somebody else? Now you get some content. It says, oh, look, we have all these things on this app rated thing. And we have all these comparison charts to show you why we're just the bee's knees, right? Content in the middle stage. And that late stage is really things like case studies, just to show, like, people don't get fired hiring Treasure Impact. They succeed. They get promotions, actually. So that's the kind of content you're thinking of. But these are it all starts with questions. Questions are, what could happen with this? And then you think, okay, what content could answer that question? And now you have not only questions and answers, you have the different kinds of drip campaigns you could send. All the question and answers become the emails for your drip campaign. And when you do it that way, it reduces the complexity and you get a sense for, okay, yeah, that's the order of the chaos here. That's what I want people to experience. Okay, now that requires some content. Who here has enough content? If you do, definitely say loud and proud in the webinar chat, I have plenty of content. Please, no more content. I am overloaded with content, right? If you don't, you could say that too. But a lot of us are in that place. So a lot of the challenge with marketing, especially marketing automation, is not having enough content. Who's with me on that? You can raise your hand. Give me a hand raise if you don't have enough content. Yeah, that's right? That's where we're all at. A lot of us don't have enough content. When I first used Pardot, I didn't have enough content either. I had 7 pieces I inherited. I joined this company as marketer of 1. They said, here's our content. There's 7 of them. when I looked at them, it was sad because 4 of those content pieces were so old. They were like 3 or 4 revisions of the logo ago, like from the 80s or 70s. I don't even, it was decades ago. I could tell you stories about their database, but at least their white papers and these content pieces were so outdated and old in PDFs that they were going to require some heavy work to like extract the knowledge, get it branded again, and make it suitable. Because I could have just sent that, but I knew that wasn't helpful to the buyer. Again, nurturing is all about caring and encouraging the buyer, not bewildering them with some old piece of data. So what we had was about 3, so 7 minus 4 is 3, right? So we had 3 pieces of content that we could utilize, and that ended up being enough. So the reason I get you all excited about mapping out your questions and your content is because that's the goal. You want to get there. We have all this content and you're ready to crush. No matter what persona they are, you've got plenty of content for them. But in the meantime, consider a simple triangle here. You see this on the screen, and this is what I ended up setting up. And so piece A was it's kind of like a virtual online demo. It was like a flash demo where you'd experience the solution like live on the website. It was kind of neat. It was quirky, but it was neat. You could see what would happen. B was a case study. And C was more of like a white paper of how the whole methodology worked. That's all I had. So what we did is we created an engagement studio. They didn't have that at the time. It was just a Pardot nurture campaign. But we created some logic so that if you first came in and you did that demo, you signed up for the demo, we got your email. A day later, David, our solution architect, the guy that knew everything, he was like the wizard, right? Not a salesperson. He was much like the solution architect of the methodology. He would send a personal email to that person saying, saw that you checked out the demo. Cool, right? People that have checked out the demo have really found it to be very helpful to then check out a case study, seeing how that demo looks in real life, right? Or like how that can play out with your company. So check out this case study. And so people would for sure check out the case study. Not only that, they would reply to David because we wrote it in a very personal way. So it wasn't like corporate-y, and people thought it was from David. So they would reply to David, thank you so much. David, what's your thought on this methodology? How does this apply? They were engaging. It was amazing. And I remember him coming up to me like, guys, this is great. Like, what's going on? And we explained it to him again, and this is great. So he was happy, and we were getting engagement, which is what we wanted. And then guess what else would happen? If somebody came in and they never did anything with us before, and they went and they got the case study first. Well, a day later, David, aka Pardot, would email them a personal note and say, guess what? People that did the case study really like seeing this demo because it shows you live in front of you what kind of things can happen. You can actually see it for yourself. Check it out. People did. They wrote back, thank you, David. I appreciate it so much. They actually checked it out. They didn't just, oh, thanks, archive. They actually went and did A. So it's either A, then B, or B, then A. And you're guessing it. What happens if you did both? You got C. And actually, if you did both, you did A and B, we actually sent you to sales at that point. So it wasn't just right after A. It was A and B, or B and A. Sent you to sales, and then waited 2 days so sales could follow up if they wanted to. And then David would send an email about content piece number 3, and we used the form on that one just to do some profiling of you to figure out how good of a lead you might be for sales. So you see, just with 3 pieces of content, now I know that you'd love to get more tailored to the industry and all these other things, but at least with just 3 pieces of content, we got people engaged. They were informed, and then when they talked to sales, they actually knew what was going on, and they were much better leads for the sales team. From there, we're able to peel off industries. So healthcare and life sciences was a big one for us at that company. And so at some point, we added the question to find out what industry they were. And at any point, A, B, or C, we found out what industry you were. We put you on a separate, more linear drip campaign specific just to that industry. And then later on, when we had time, because I get it, we don't have all that much time. But later on, initiative was, okay, if you were in the tech space, we peeled you off and put you in a tech linear nurture campaign. But you could start with a triangle. Start with just 3 pieces of content, just 2 even, and a personalized follow-up from sales. All right. Here's that linear drip I was talking about. A, then B, then C. If you want to do the triangle, that's fantastic. If you want to just put people on a linear drip campaign, oftentimes at the very beginning, I'll have a catch-all campaign where I don't know much about you, but I really want to find out some critical things. Maybe your persona through a couple questions, or maybe it's what industry you're in, or some kind of different, maybe what role you play in a company. So I can give you different language, speak to the CMO differently from the CIO, right? So I might have a catch-all where I send you one piece of content, another piece of content. It might be generic, but as soon as I find out what you are, I'll peel you out of that campaign and send you somewhere else. And if you have A, B, and C, and D and E and F, this is more of like a long-term thing where the triangle is very short. It's kind of like get engagement now. The linear is saying, well, we'll get engagement now, but we'll also plan for the future in the long term. And the timing between those, it's up to you. It depends on what's happening. If they've told you don't call me for 6 months, every month is cool. If they're still interested, they're doing research, you might consider sooner. I think a lot of people knee-jerk reaction go to 1 month separated, but they don't need to. If the person's doing research now, go with what they're doing. If their activity is consistently showing they're interested, then give them what they want and give it to them soon. All right, here's a really interesting way of flipping it around. So in the last one is ABC, right? And in ABC, we're giving them early stage, mid stage, and late stage content. Makes sense, right? If you first get on the list, you're probably early stage, and if not, great. Now you've got early stage content. Well, Mr. Matt Sweezy here. Does anyone know Matt? Raise your hand if you know Matt. If you don't, you should check him out. He's on the podcast. Fantastic dude. He was one of the third salesperson for Pardot. Really smart when it comes to marketing automation. Just did a video on YouTube about it. Great guy. Chatted with him on the podcast about the future of marketing. But one of the things that he had mentioned early on when talking about Pardot is the idea of flipping the drip campaign upside down. Consider this, right? And marketing, we're all about different ideas. I wouldn't want you to leave here without this concept. It's very interesting. And I have seen it work on several occasions. So consider this. The idea is that when people come into your drip campaign, yes, there's probably some people in the mid stage, there's probably some early stagers, and there's some late stagers. The idea, though, is the people that come in that are late stage are ready to buy sooner than later. But they just need that late stage content. And maybe they can make a decision. But why should we make them wait 6 months, 8 months, however many emails to get to the stuff that will really help them answer their question and sign the dotted line and get that sale? Jaron, your earlier question about the sales stages and those type of things, maybe we flip this around. And then what this concept is give the people that are about ready to buy that late stage content right now. And the people that are in the middle of the process, give them that mid stage content right now. The people that are early in it, they'll get their content at the end. They'll get it. And that's fine, because what this is geared to do is to get you more people converting sooner, to talking to sales sooner, to converting, to buying sooner, if you don't know what their stage is. Now, let's see here. Now, one thing I'll say, 3-to-1 is fantastic. More advanced way of doing it, you can definitely do it with Engagement Studio, is to actually give them a choose your own adventure type email campaign. So I'm a big fan of only having one call to action in your emails, but I'll allow it if you're doing a choose your own adventure drip campaign. And the idea is you offer people two types of content. One is highlighted, like here is our early stage content. But then underneath there, you might have a link to a late stage content piece. And then you let people pick whichever content they're interested in, but you listen and you watch. And if you see them pick and choose that late stage content, okay, maybe they're actually in that stage. And then what you do from there is move them into a path on your nurture campaign that has more of that late stage content. So you don't have to necessarily just be stuck in doing a 3-2-1. You could just make it interactive in that same way. Maybe you offer people the headlining content on your very first drip campaign is late stage content to get people to just convert. And you have an out for people who are early stage content, so they can click off and get to that early stage stuff and find out what the hub is all about. And then great question. Isn't it all about the list? If you don't have clean data, it's such a challenge. Huh. Amen to that. It's all about the data, right? We talk a little bit about the roadmap for Pardot. Data is number 3. It's in our foundational phase in that roadmap for Pardot. You got to make sure your data is good. That's gonna play on to your nurturing. It's gonna play into all the different things. I will say that when you have nurturing, you can use that nurturing to help clean up the data yourself. And that, things like a catch-all campaign, I know I mentioned that earlier, but if you're not sure about some data about particular people, oftentimes we've had clients who they don't know if you're in public or private health, but that it's really important that they find out. Well, you can go look at a vendor and see if that they might have the data. They may not have that specific type of data you're looking for, or the number of hospital beds, or the number of computer screens, or employees they have, or whatever kind of qualifying question they have. You can use a nurture campaign to ask that question. So you ask it early on, and whatever they answer, you use that to create a decision tree to go in a different direction. The whole point is just to get them the content they need in the stage that they're at. So we don't, we can get distracted by all the tech, but in the end, it's all about getting the right content to the right people at the right time. Because why? It's the most helpful, because that's caring, and that's also going to encourage them the best. Question: how do you resolve for click-happy prospects who click both CTAs with your choose your path? It's a good question. People are just like, oh, let me investigate this, let me investigate that. Well, typically what we'll have for those prospects, especially for the early on ones, I mean, it's a great question. They're going to have a form in front of that piece of content. So it's not just like free for all, get your content. There's a form in front of it. So there's a little bit of barter that has to go on. Now, ideally, they're Pardot forms, and you're only asking a few questions each time. But there's a little bit of that. And so sometimes what we'll do is just every now and then, because you can't necessarily watch this all the time, but we'll audit to see if people were click happy but didn't complete the form, or click happy and did complete the form. And sometimes what we'll do, we only did this, I think, maybe twice, is we updated the automation. So instead of looking for the click, it was actually looking to see which form was filled out afterward. We used that to change their path. We had to do a little more coding. It was like a tag that went on you if you filled out that form, but we used that just to make sure you weren't just clicking on everything and going from there. But it's a good question. I don't see too many people doing that. And if there's one or two doing that, well, then they can go experiment. But usually people will pick one or two of those directions. That's why it's usually best to have like early and late stage content opposing each other. Because if you have like early and mid or late and mid, it can be very similar, it can be very close. So you give people a chance to either say, no, I'm way beyond that, or I'm definitely not beyond that. Those are some ideas for you. All right. Engagement Studio. If you haven't already worked on this, we've got some great training on it, but it's fantastic. It's very easy to use. I remember when it first came out, I was like, oh my gosh, we weren't even going to pay attention on that webinar, and we stopped everything we were doing, and we're like, whoa, this is a big deal. It's like a Visio editor that you can do, and each one of these things has a different action you can take. And I'm sure you're all probably familiar with this, but just consider that you probably want a little color as you're going down your screen. Consider you don't want to just have a bunch of blue. Okay, taking a bunch of actions. You want to have a bunch of green, you want a bunch of yellow. Consider that the proper drip campaign is going to have a mixture of all of these, right? And it's going to be even. If you have too much of one versus another, you can end up having issues. One of the benefits of Pardot is that each decision tree can just end. It doesn't have to rejoin its friends. It can just end, and you can always start a different drip campaign. So don't be shy in terms of using triggers to listen. Hey, did anyone click on this thing? One of the best uses I've seen of that is if we have a campaign to listen for those people who were spending money holding on to them inside of Pardot. They're not clicking on anything we're doing, and we're not sure should we delete them or not. You kind of don't want to delete them because you paid so much money to get them, but in the end, you might want to free up that space. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll have like a wake up campaign or are you alive campaign. Maybe I wouldn't say are you alive, but I've seen people do that. What you end up doing is you have a campaign where you send out, if they're not clicking, they're not clicking, they're not clicking, their score is not increasing, they're not doing any research. Okay, you put them on a thread that starts sending them wild, outlandish subject lines, right? Like aliens have landed or whatever. I mean, whatever you want to do that fits your brand and all that. And then see if people click or open or anything. If they don't, you're like, well, not even aliens got you to click. So you're out of here. So that's another idea for you. All right, let's do some magic voodoo witchcraft, call it a day, and get on out of here. Yes. Yes, who has the pot of boiling water? All right. As I get into this part, quick question for those listening and watching. Do you have personal emails? Do you have corporate emails? Do you do both? Do you tend to do one versus another? Um, what kind of a mixture do you have? If you're doing nurtures, or even if you're doing the one-off monthly email campaigns, what kind of emails do you send? Do you send ones with lots of graphics? Do you send sort of the more one-on-one written ones? And go ahead and throw that in the webinar chat. I'm seeing so far the boths have it. I see all corporate coming up as well. Most are corporate speak is another one, but we want to change it. Both. I see graphics. So it's great seeing a lot of people saying both. And those saying, corporate and potentially experimenting with other things, great to hear. Now, here's a challenge. For those of you who said both, you're not out of the desert yet. You're not out of the desert yet, because chances are you could be doing it wrong. And so we're going to squash that right now. Quick question for everyone watching. Is this email that you're seeing in front of you right now, is this corporate or is this personal? Just from what you can see. This email right in front of you from LeadSpace. LeadSpace gets, that's what happens when you spam Casey. Your email ends up on a webinar for everyone to see. Okay, so I'm seeing that this is a corporate email. No one thinks it's a personal email? Really? But it says, "Hi, Casey." And look at that nice plain text they have down there. What about this email tells you that it's corporate? And it's almost like your lizard brain knew it was corporate before I even had to say anything. You just knew. Okay, so let's see what everyone says. There's a lot of different things that would tell you this is corporate. I see personalized corporate. Okay, I see the branding. And what specifically are you seeing here? So I see logo, right? Has anyone ever hit compose new message and sent an email to their friend or one of their parents, been like, "Hey mom, blah, blah, blah," and had their logo of their company in the top left? No, it never happens. If there is a logo in your personal email, where is it? It's in the signature line at the bottom, right? I also see the banner. You're right, Aaron. If I'm ever going to send you an email and it has a banner, it was probably from the marketing team, right? Totally. Another point, Salvador, that's a good point. The email is more about the company and what it's doing and less about the recipient's needs. That's huge. I don't think I've had someone mention that before, but it's so true. It's so true. Hey, look at us. That's not nurturing. That's not caring. That's look at me. No. It's all about nurturing that prospect, caring about them, wanting to encourage their growth. Social icons, Terry, totally. Whoever sends a personal email with social icons? What's going on here? Right? And then Tanoan, that's a really cool name. You know nothing about me or my pain, right? I love it. So you're exactly right. That is a corporate email. But the challenge is that corporate email actually had some craziness at the bottom that was trying to make it look personal. It came from a person too. Now, here's another question. This one you're seeing now here from Scott at Pardot. Is this a personal or corporate email? And based on what your vote is, why? What tells you is a personal email or a corporate email? I'm going to drink my blue water. I'm listening for your response. Okay, it's personal. We got that much. It looks personal, but it's corporate. True. So corporate. There's literally nothing specific about the recipient. Oh, so jaded. This is my good example. That's okay. I love it. We're being critical, and that's fine because we just talked about we got to be caring. So here are some of the things that would tell me this is more of a personal email. And now, yes, you're right. This was an official nurture email that Pardot was using several years ago. It actually worked too. So what's not in here is above this is a personal reply from the recipient, Kristen, who was like, "Oh, hey, Scott. Yeah, hey, we did all the things, the danger zone. We hired the webmaster. We did all the things that you want, that I told you I was going to do. And they weren't just an excuse. I'd love to get on your schedule. When are you free?" So it was a great email. It is a nurture email. So there's a couple things on here. Now, I love that you guys are being critical, but let's just sort of simplify here. Who's it from? It's from a person. That's good. Now, I know the other one abuses that too, so we're going to talk about that. Subject line. Look at that subject line. Usually in marketing, we're guilty of having these like super keywordy subjects with all the data in it, the time, the date, marketing webinar on nurturing, taking place at such and such time, join us, sign up today, right? Call to action. We want to put the whole body of that email in the subject line sometimes. I'm guilty of it. And if you're guilty of it, raise your hand. We've all been there. Everyone's like, finger. Like, no, we're gonna hide. But yeah, we've all done that. So the subject line in this case, though, some client success I wanted to share. Dear God, there's no punctuation in that subject line. And they didn't capitalize every letter of every word, right? Because if you're just going to pen off an email to someone in your company, unless maybe it's like, 3 floors up or something, you're probably just going to put a quick subject line. You don't really care about the capitals too much. You want to get that thing off there, or especially if it's a personal note to a friend, right? Josh me about this webinar or something. Hey, Casey, hey, great webinar, blah, blah, blah. And then like an emoticon with the tongue sticking out. Cool. You would do something like that too. It addresses Kristen. And then here's the difference. Is this a long email or a short email? It's a short email. There's a little bit of here. Hey, there's a great case study to check out. You might like it. Here's a quote from it. I can imagine that Scott penned the first part and probably pasted the second part. It's not super long, right? And this says enjoy Scott. And at the bottom, it's cut off by this graphic, but it was actually his signature line, as if he hit compose new message and wrote the email. Now I get the hyperlink that doesn't normally happen in a personal email, but I'll let it slide because everything else is so personal. So the reason, and thank you for your patience and kind of going through this with me. The reason I want us to talk about this, and I kind of went through both of these facets, is that it's okay to do either or email. In fact, sometimes it's great to do both. Like many of you said both. Here's the thing. These guys behind are on a fence. Like, why is there a country western fence behind? Consider a fence, a gigantic fence, even a wall, the Great Wall of China, between the corporate email and the personal email, which means send a corporate email and do everything and make it look like everything a corporate email would have. Don't make it from a person. Have your keywordy subject. Have your graphics everywhere. Get your team on it. By the way, our graphics team is amazing at Chesh. So if you need some templates, let me know. But Malcolm and team are amazing. So yeah, graphics everywhere, tons of text, right? Now, tons of text works in corporate email, but not in a personal email. We're not writing these Edwardian love novels to each other. Oh, dearest Casey, I thought of you yesteryear, and I thought of this and this and this. No, we're not doing that. They're quick, to the point, kind of like Scott's email on the left there. So if you want to say a lot of stuff, make it a corporate email. If you want to just get a little stuff communicated and maybe get some engagement out of it, do a short email. Graphics. The only graphic is the signature in a personal email. The subject's casual and it's from a name. Now here's the deal. Use both whenever you'd like. Don't violate the wall. As soon as you violate the wall in between these and you take a little bit from one, a little bit from another, it actually, you can imagine what happens. It breaks both of them. So if you, just like what Lead Space did, they try to do a little bit of both and we go, no, it's corporate, right? The problem is if you violate it, then even the personal ones aren't trusted, right? If you got an email from Casey Cheshire, Casey freaking Cheshire emailed you, this happened to me too. It was an author of a book, and which is probably more popular, right? So it's like an author of a book sent me an email. I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's emailing me. Sweet. I open it up, blah, 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 corporate email. And I was like, no, I thought I got an email from an author. But see, now anytime I ever got an email from that person again, I never, it was like, oh, okay, that guy doesn't own his inbox. So I didn't trust the rest of it. Now, real quick tip with this, the corporate ones work really well for webinars as well as events, because what you can do with the graphics is convey like a high production value. You can convey that a lot of time and effort has gone into the webinar or into this event or this VIP dinner. We really want you to come. Then I recommend send that out, but then have an automatic email coming maybe the day or day after, personalized from the sales rep saying, I made sure you were on the VIP list for that event. I think you got an invite. Can you make it, right? Oftentimes what people will do is they'll see the reminder from the rep. They'll go back to the original one and register on that afterward. So they can definitely work better in conjunction together. Just don't violate between the two. And the questions, are you suggesting to not personalize a salutation in a corporate email? Great question. I let that one pass. It's not listed on the charts here. I think we all know that if something says your name in the very beginning of it, you're going to be more engaged with it, and whether it's corporate or whether it's personal. So I think everybody gets that you're able to do that. And so just because of the fact that people will engage with that corporate email a little bit more, I'm okay with that being personalized. Even if you want to write it as like a note to them, that's totally fine. It's those other things I don't want to violate. So I don't want it to come from a name. So typically at Cheshire Impact, if you're getting an invite from something, it'd be from Team Chesh. Or if you graduate one of our implementations, we have a drip campaign that comes from success at Cheshire Impact, right? Because it's our success team. But then if we want to send you a personalized email, it'll come from an actual name, and we don't want to violate that too. So that's a great question. And so do you start with a person, then corporate, later so on? Well, you know what? Those personal emails are so much easier to create. I recommend you test it. Do an A/B test if you've got the ability in Pardot. Personalized email, corporate email. See what works. We've tested a lot of them, and typically what we find is that it's about even, which means, in my opinion, if you had more time, then I would just do the personal ones. But again, for some things, that corporate email conveys this is about to happen. So you'll see that for our webinars here. We're inviting you to these webinars. Casey didn't just throw this together on a weekend. This has like some real stuff put into it. So because of that, we use a corporate email. But really good questions. Do you need opt-out language of personal emails? You do, and there's some ways around that. We're going to push that to Q&A, but great question. What do you think of ads being too personal? What do you think of ads being added to personal emails? We're seeing this happen more often now. Kind of like the things at the bottom. Yeah, I've actually looked into that, Terry. We'll do a webinar on it. You're right that it could kind of signal that it's not a personal email if you see some kind of banner at the bottom. It just depends. If they're used to seeing that in a signature line, it's okay. The unsubscribe, you still need the unsubscribe in those emails. Since a couple of you are asking, yes, you do in the personal email still need the unsubscribe. It doesn't have to be the one-click unsubscribe. So oftentimes in the personal email, what we'll do is we'll link to the preference center. And you can link to the preference center in however language you'd like to link to it. In fact, you could use a positive sentence to say, check out all of the email categories you can get on. Check out all the email options we have, all the thought leader options here, right? As long as you're linking to some way that they can unsubscribe. Final question what are your thoughts on using a pseudo reply back email like webinars at company? I think it's totally cool if that's the corporate one. I do really want people to actually get responses. I try to respond all the time. Nothing drives me crazier when there's like a no reply, because technically you'd probably want me to reply more than you want me to click on your form and go through that process, right? You'd rather me actually be actively engaged in writing you an email. So technically that's even more preferred than anything, but typically we kind of get so mentally in a position to want scalability as marketers that we forget that we actually want a personal reply. So I don't mind the pseudo reply back emails as long as someone's going to reply to it. If that makes it easier, from a logistics standpoint. Okay, top of the hour. So we're going to keep cranking. If you need to drop, don't worry. We'll have the recording, and we will do these questions at the end in the Q&A section so that people can get those. All right, last thing, really exciting. If you haven't checked out the Hardcore Marketing Show, definitely do that. Stitcher, Podbean, Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere they're at. And this is show number 72. And it's with a brilliant guy named Keith Phillips. Brilliant guy. He blends B2C with B2B very well. And he actually has these things called 8-word emails that are designed to get his prospects to engage directly with him. Does he get a lot of written emails back? Yes, he gets 50% response rate on these things. I've seen the exact same kind of results myself. With some emails, not telling you'll get them one day from me, and maybe you'll reply to them. But the whole goal is to encourage engagement, not discourage it. And he does that, and he builds trust by doing that. And it's all about getting engagement anyways. All right, so for those of you dropping, no problem. We will see you all next time. A couple quick things on the next steps. If you haven't already done this, it's the Cheshire Success Index. This is free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just really want you to know a couple things. One, where you're at with marketing automation. We've got an assessment. It takes 30 minutes. It's a phone call with someone on our team, and we go through a 10-point strategy assessment with you to figure out the 10 different most important features of Pardot or marketing automation, whatever you're using, to understand if you're using it or not using it. At the end of doing this assessment, you'll have a number between 0 and 10 of how well you're using marketing automation. Hey, no judgment. At least you know, hey, I'm a 2 or I'm a 6. And then now you know I could be a 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. And consider this, a lot of people will first take it and it'll be a 1 or a 2. But then when they come back and show the leadership team, their bosses, other people in the organization that now they're a 6 out of 10, they've literally quadrupled their use of marketing automation at that company. It's amazing. The assessment is also a roadmap. It's in order. So it shows you do this first with Pardot, which is ROI tracking. Do this next. Understand your customers, set up your ROI tracking, set up your data. Data was mentioned earlier. So there's a roadmap to it. The whole goal is for you to know where you're at, what your next step is, and then also what a 10 looks like. So the cool thing is, if you're interested in that, we can actually send you more information on it. All you have to do is say CSI in the webinar chat. So CSI in the webinar chat. You could also do it in the Q&A interface if you're feeling kind of shy, but just type in CSI, and what we'll do is we'll reach out, we'll schedule time to go through, ask these questions, and figure out where you're at. All right, the cool thing is that all these questions in the CSI relate to the book. So for those of you still here, very excited to show you this. Can you see it? Can you see it all? This is the book. It's finally out. Marketing Automation Unleashed. It's on Amazon now. It's on Prime. It's on Kindle. Very excited. Thanks to everyone here, everyone on the Chesh team, doing all this work together, getting that thing put together. It's literally all of Casey's strategy bundled into one book. So you could listen to me talk, or if you prefer the quiet life, you can for sure read this book. And it's my heart and soul of everything marketing automation into a book. So there's that. And with that, we will end the recording. So goodbye to those on the recording, and we'll get into our Q&A.